So, as I'm catching up on Dark Matter, looking at Killjoys and review, reviewing the season that's been had and I've missed. Um, there's a lot of talk about Sci-Fi Network. Sci-Fi Network's been canceling really good shows. Names get thrown about of all these really, really good sci-fi series that get canceled. And in the background is news that hasn't been made official yet, but it makes sense that the new Star Trek movies, the Kelvin timeline, is dead. That Star Trek Beyond killed it. That's it, it's over, it's finished. Because Star Trek Beyond lost money, which I can't fathom, because it was a very good movie. It was much better than Into Darkness. Star Trek Into Darkness, there were so many logical fallacies in that movie. There's so many moments in that movie that I'm just like, wait, what? Why? The first time I saw it, I loved it. And then with repeated viewings, I was like, that doesn't work. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't... Why? What is Khan's motivation for any of this? None of it made any sense to me. So, to me, I think that movie hurt Beyond. Because I think people were still upset and angry about Khan being so stupid that they didn't give Beyond the shot that it probably deserved. But here's the thing. So there's a lot of sci-fi fans who say, we want to see intelligent science fiction. All this crap blowing up, all this, all these action movies. These new Star Wars or new Star Trek movies are just action movies. We want the old stuff back. The old stuff doesn't sell. Look at the next gen movies. Look at Insurrection. Nobody went to see it. Nemesis. Nobody went to see it. Doesn't sell. The old Star Trek died for a reason. At the theaters. Nobody went to see them. Nemesis had an interesting idea. It was overly dark and heavy-handed. Insurrection had a stupid idea that should have just been an episode and they should have just forgot about it. But they tried to tell a story. They weren't action hero movies. Although Nemesis kind of tried to do that at the end, but it was really kind of... Again, it was too heavy-handed and too dark. Just so dark. And it didn't make any sense either. The whole Shinzo, what is your plan here? Why? What is your motivation? So the intelligent science fiction people want to return to is like Star Trek Next Generation. It's dead. That kind of storytelling is dead unless it's on HBO. It's on something like Ash vs. Evil Dead, so it's on the Stars Network, or something like FX. So you have to take a show like Dark Matter, and you have to put it on a channel like FX. You have to get it away from sci-fi. You have to get it or onto like a Netflix or Hulu or something like that, because some shows do really, really well with network viewers and ratings. Science fiction has never been one of those things. We all have these romantic ideas of how great Star Trek was, The Next Generation, and it was. All the networks turned it down. No network wanted to touch it with a 10-foot pole. They're like, oh, Star Trek, a series? Nah. No, we're not going to touch that. And the ugly truth is this. If Star Trek The Next Generation had been a series on network TV, it would have been put up against a top 10 TV show because the network would have had no faith in it, and it would have died in Season 1. Season 1 would have killed it. Season 1 of Star Trek The Next Generation is mostly terrible. I remember when they killed off Tasha Yar, and I was so upset because I thought Tasha Yar was so hot. Denise Crosby was gorgeous. The show got a lot better after they killed off Tasha Yar. It got so much better. And then yesterday's Enterprise was just, for me, the absolute peak for that show. And Tasha's in that one too because you have the alternate timeline. When you're not on network TV and you're not in a position where ratings are a big deal, then yes, intelligent TV shows can survive. But when you're on a TV station that says, hey, ratings are important, science fiction, the smart stuff, doesn't usually survive. I agree with everybody else. I want to see intelligent movies made. But when you can take a Transformers movie, which is just robots punching each other in the face for 2 hours, and you don't have to even differentiate the robots from one another. You just give them weird, stereotypical personalities. You just make them one note. And then all their faces look the same. They're all painted the same color. Like, it's just... telling them apart during fight scenes is enough to give you an aneurysm. So, for me, once the Transformers movies, especially once the second one got out there and it was a big hit too, I gave up. I gave up in that moment, finally, once and for all, on the Hollywood blockbuster. And even the Marvel movies. I enjoy the Marvel movies. I've started not watching all of them. Because I've had enough. There's too many. There's too much out there. And some of them aren't that great. And they all follow the same general plot line. And the end result, this big Thanos fight they're building up to, I don't care. They've had so many movies building up to this stupid alien, the purple guy on the throne. I don't care. I care about Guardians of the Galaxy, but I didn't see it in the theaters. I watched the new Spider-Man in the theaters. Really loved it. Fantastic movie. I'll watch Guardians on DVD, and this is where we're at now. We're at a point where I am saying, all right, I can't do this anymore. I can't go out to the theater every 3 months and watch another Marvel movie that puts another piece of the puzzle into place, and watch post-credit scenes where there's a bunch... Like, I didn't even watch post-credit scenes in Spider-Man. I didn't care. I'm at that point, too. So, the only thing that I think that people can do who want to see intelligent shows... watch them. There's people right now who won't watch sci-fi because they feel like they got burned by whether it was Farscape or whatever it was. Could go all the way back to Babylon 5 in terms of their anger at science fiction. Watch the shows. Support them. Organize campaigns to save them. I don't know if Dark Matter and Killjoys will come back next year. They may not. The ratings have been poor for both of them. But sci-fi in general, its ratings are in the crapper. And I'm not sure that canceling series is going to help them. But I think what's hurt sci-fi, and I know it's hurt music channels too, is they got away from what they were. Reality TV said, hey, I'm cheap. It's cheap to make reality TV shows. It's cheap to put them on. And all these networks ran out to put on reality TV, which is garbage. Reality TV is garbage. It's not reality. It's just garbage. It's just junk. I was a huge fan of Survivor the first couple of seasons, and then I realized it was mostly staged. Really is. And Big Brother I was a big fan of for a long time, but once the rumors from people who've been in the house started getting out about how the voting's a little bit staged, done. I just don't subscribe to anything that's reality based now, because it's not reality. But that's what's cheap. So I don't know how much further good science fiction shows can go. I don't know how many more there's going to be before it's just all cheap, watered down special effects extravaganzas. And for me, part of the issue too is, like, everybody makes this big deal when the new Sharknado movie's coming out. I've never watched any of them because I see what they're doing, and I can't handle it. They're putting all these pop culture icons from the 90s together in this really stupid movie that admits it's stupid and winks at you like, we know we're stupid. And there's no point. None. Not wasting 2 hours of my life on something that has no point. I did that with the movie 2012. I wanted to put a gun in my mouth every time I watched it, and I was forced to watch it because the person I was with at the time thought it was a great movie. Love Day After Tomorrow, too. This is what sells. So for those of us who like intelligent science fiction, we're going to be down to a point where we can only read the books about it. I was as disappointed as anybody when Star Wars was taken over by Disney, and Disney said, well, the expanded universe doesn't exist anymore. Because all I could think was, there's some really fantastic books out there. Really fantastic books, and now you can just set fire to them, because that storyline no longer exists. Star Trek did it too, with the Kelvin storyline, and it sucks. So don't be surprised when these shows get canceled. But when you're watching a show on Netflix, when you're watching a show, and I know Hulu's American, it's not in Canada, but it's there. When you're watching a show on, for us in Canada, Crave TV, more than ratings drive whether or not a show comes back. There's more to it than that. There's more artistic license being taken with these shows, and I really believe that sci-fi and channels like this are going to fall by the wayside in the next 5 to 10 years. That we will see more online stations, more online television, because it's not really television because you're watching it online. It's streaming. But now it's qualified as TV, so Emmy Awards can have House of Cards and all these shows on. And I want to throw in there too, I did watch House of Cards the first couple seasons and loved it. The last couple seasons have been crap. So there's that. But still, at least it's creative and it's something different. And it's somewhat smart. It was smart the first couple years. It's kind of gone off the rails the last couple, but at least it tries. So let me know your favorites. Again, this is just a video to those who think that smart science fiction can somehow garner ratings. It can't. It's been proven time and time and time again. Smart science fiction is a niche audience, and it is a small audience. And you're better off having it on Netflix, like Stranger Things, than bothering to put it on channels like Sci-Fi. And I hope to God that if something happens and Dark Matter is canceled by Sci-Fi in the States, that the Canadian Space Network sells its rights to Netflix, and has Netflix help produce it, because then we'll have a much better show that is not driven by commercials. There's way too many commercials on television now. I mean, when I was a kid, you had 4 commercial breaks of 2 minutes, so a show was 52 minutes. Now a show's 44 minutes if it's an hour long. That's not an hour. That's 44 minutes. It's 8 minutes taken out of every single episode you watch of an hour-long show for more commercials. That's 16 minutes out of 60 watching commercials. It is bloody ridiculous. That's why I love the BBC. I love the Brits. Doctor Who is still 30 minutes an episode, but it means that or 60 minutes an episode, but it means if you're watching it in Canada or in the States, they're going to hack it to shit because they have to get their commercials in there, and it's aggravating. It is aggravating watching an episode of Doctor Who and realizing you're watching mid-scene because they had to hack out half of the scene so they could squash commercials in there. It's insulting and it's ridiculous. So you can throw that beef in there as well. Because there's a show that's intelligent and they hack it to pieces so it doesn't make any sense because they got to get their American commercials in there. Or in this instance, Canadian commercials. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.